And here we are, the final portion of the game. All 4 fiends have been defeated, so now we go back to the Circle of Sages at Crescent Lake to find out just what we need to do to clear this game. And while we're here, we'll give Omaru a little more time in the spotlight. And I think that's appropriate because in a lot of Final Fantasy games, the Black Mage or the Black Wizard takes on a kind of scholarly role. He's like the researcher of the group. So him having a conversation with the sages, he'll fit right in. Now upcoming is a plot twist that you can't try to wrap your head around too hard if you want to enjoy it. So we have to go back to the first dungeon of the game. And we have to travel back in time. And there is a time loop that stretches 2,000 years into the past. Someone from this time went back 2,000 years into the past and then started the trouble by sending forth the Fiends. That's an interesting statement there. And then the rest of the sages say the same thing that they've said for a while now. But nowadays, the time travel plot device comes under heavy scrutiny. So we may wonder, how are we in a time loop? Are the fiends that we've already defeated coming back? Or if we left everything alone from here, will the fiends stay defeated and then we would be going back in time to undo the destruction that's already been done over the past 2,000 years. But let's just back up for a minute. We haven't really scrutinized how fighters can die in battle yet, be raised up, or the properties of oxy ale and the physiology of breathing underwater. This whole game and story is supposed to be fantastical. So I recommend to just focus on this. A villain perpetuates his life indefinitely by traveling back in time and repeating the same 2,000 years of ruining the world. Because the majority of civilizations that we've seen in this game are shadows of what they could be because of the fiends. And now we, the heroes who have traveled the whole world and gained legendary strength, armor, and weapons, will travel back in time to stop this loop and put the world back the way it was. That is epic. Now you may remember when we were talking to the Lufanians, they mentioned their mightiest warriors being turned into bats. These are the bats, and they will give us information that points us in the right direction. Here is an inconsequential enemy at this point. If Omaru does not light them up with his fire, which he can't because he's paralyzed, Cow will wrap things up. So those warriors came here 400 years ago, and they have advised us to take the orbs that have had the light returned to them and interact with the orb in the middle. Now it's time to walk forward. And here it is, the true final dungeon of the game. Now, unless you're exploring, the stairs in the southwest corner of the first floor don't lead to anything. Now earlier in the game, when we were on our way to the class upgrades, I mentioned a disadvantage to coming here without a white wizard or a black wizard. Without exit or warp, spells that mages cannot learn, only wizards, there is no way to get out of this final dungeon. So if you never upgraded or you never bought exit or warp for your white and black wizards, you would be committed to seeing this dungeon through to the end, win or lose. And remember, if you have to rely on warp to escape, the black wizard has to have as many MP charges as stairs you have used in this dungeon. And we have 2 floors to go up and then 7 floors to go down to get to our final battle. So depending on where you're at, if you get in trouble, you may need to use warp 9 times to get out of here. And there are 43 different enemies to fight in the Temple of Fiends past, and a whole host of different combinations for those enemies. But only 5 of these enemies are new, 3 random encounters and 2 set encounters, including the final boss. We will definitely put either Shao or Miko as the party lead. And on this first floor, one new enemy is the Worm. You'll also encounter frost dragons, chimeras, and slimes. You cannot run from the worms, and these worms are pretty beefy with their physical attack. They also have high magic defense, but at this point in the game, especially with Excalibur equipped, we've got beefy physical attacks of our own. Now here's a difference in the Pixel Remaster when you come to the final dungeon. In the Pixel Remaster, they put a black orb at the entrance, and you can use that black orb to return to the present time. So in that version, you don't need exit or warp to get out. But in this original version, you do. It's a short walk from the second floor to the third floor. So on the third floor, we're going to deal with gas dragons, badmans, mages, fighters, zombie dragons, and wizard vampires. You cannot run from the gas dragons. Now on your playthrough, you may have seen them already by this point, because in the waterfall cavern, they are a rare enemy. But because they're rare, it's likely that the Temple of Fiends past will be the first time you run into the gas dragons. The mages and the fighters are intimidating, but not as much as the mages used to be when we saw them in the ice cave. Because our pro rings, our protect rings, protect us from their rub spell. And we actually have a 14% chance of encountering these mages and fighters on the third floor of the Temple of Fiends past, so this has been a rare-ish encounter. In the final dungeon, there are gigantic rooms with not a lot to see in them, unless you like exploring. If you're not exploring, then it's best to go straight for your destination in the first few floors of this dungeon. Here is a nice big group of gas dragons. One gas dragon was intimidating enough in the waterfall cave, but our levels are significantly higher since then. However, these guys will still be trouble because they have group poison attacks. Now these group poison attacks will do a decent amount of damage to the party, but you will not be inflicted with the poison status. The poison attack will only do damage. Looks like Miko could use some health. It's funny to look at the character's hit points here at the end of the game. Shao having 500 hit points is a big deal, but in future installments of Final Fantasy, what we're looking at here as the endgame hit points for everyone would actually be less than the starting hit points for the characters. Is that inflation? Even though the gas dragons are weak to ice, we're not using Ice 3. I want to save the big attacks for the bigger fights. But Omaru's black robe comes in handy to whittle down their health while Shao and Miko catch up on the physical attack side of things. Mainly Shao. So in any role-playing game, it is common for the player to make up a little backstory for his customized characters. And I have a backstory for all 4 of these characters. Shao is an adventurer, a bounty hunter. He has a wife and a daughter. One day he was hunting a particularly fearsome beast, so he joined a hunting party, and that's where he crossed paths with a black mage named Omaru. The two of them had similar hunting styles, and they got along well, so even after they took out that major hunt, they continued traveling together in hunting and adventuring. We're going to take care of Miko before we move into the next room, because as soon as we enter the next room, we will start a set encounter with another new enemy. The Phantom, another enemy that reminds me of Phantoon from Super Metroid. A lot of the Phantom's abilities you will be able to resist, but it is still a good idea to take the Phantom out quickly before he gets a chance to use the abilities that will work on you. His beefy physical attacks will also cause paralysis, but he is weak to fire, so if you have something equipped that will resist fire, his physical attacks will not cause paralysis on you. We have 2 treasures in the room to pick up. And then an item to use in the center of this little room, an item that we've been hanging on to since the beginning of the game. You may remember the loot that Princess Sarah gave us. In order to get past this metal plate, we must use this loot. And now, from the 3rd floor of the Temple of Fiends Past, we make our way down, down, down to the final battle. On this, the 2nd floor, we will encounter zombie dragons, frost giants, frost wolves, chimeras, gymeras, which are new to our party, slimes, and whiz vamps. If you encounter zombie dragons by themselves, you cannot run from them. The same goes for frost giants and frost wolves. So we cannot run from this particular battle. But the zombie dragons, being weak to fire and vulnerable to the white mage's harm abilities, will go down easily. Now Miko and Kao were old friends of Omaru the Black Mage, so while Shao and Omaru planned to meet them while traveling in a far eastern land, before they could arrive at their meeting spot, they came upon a hunt that was a bit much for just the 2 of them. Miko and Kao came looking for Shao and Omaru, so they were able to help them before the beast prevailed. This is how Shao met Miko and Kao. And after a few more occasions where the 4 crossed paths with each other, they eventually became a hunting party of their own. And here we are back on the 1st floor, where we will encounter frost dragons, worms, chimeras, and slimes. But now, as we enter into the bowels of the Temple of Fiends, every enemy on this first subfloor is associated with the earth element. So we have mud golems, rock golems, green medusas, the earth element as we were fighting now, and saurias, the little lizards that look like agamas. And as we have already seen, the enemies that appear normally by themselves in their original areas appear in groups here in the final dungeon, like those earth elements coming in groups of 4. We are also going to see a classic Mega Man style setup to this final dungeon, where we will have to fight the Fiends all over again on the way to the final boss. Now, the Fiends that we encounter are not the exact same fight as when we originally encountered them. There are some variations. In this fight with Lich, you may remember as an opening attack in the original fight, he had a 75% chance of using Ice 2. Here in the final dungeon, he has a 75% chance of opening with Nuke, the strongest Black Wizard ability in the game. So we will hit him hard with everything we've got and just hope that he doesn't kill us with his Nuke attack. And there, we took care of him quick. That's how the fights go in this game, a quick win or a quick loss. Notice that we did not get a lot of experience or a lot of gold from that fight, because every time you step on that particular part of the floor, you will encounter the Fiend. So this prevents us from farming the Fiends and power leveling here in the final dungeon. On the second sublevel, we will face Carrie, and the enemies here will also have a fire theme. But we will also find a couple of items here that we'll pick up along the way. But the enemies that we have to fight here are the Grey Worm, the Red Giant, Agama, the Fire Element, and the Red Dragon. Now here, I have a decision to make. In this chest is another Pro Cape that we could give to Omaru, but right now he has the Opal Bracelet and the Black Robe taking up space in his inventory. We would have to either give up his Black Robe so that he can have the best defense possible with the Opal Bracelet and the Pro Cape, or because I like symmetry, we could give up the extra 10 points of defense from the bracelet so that Omaru can have a Black Robe, a ribbon, a Pro Ring, and a Pro Cape, along with Cow, who has a White Robe, a ribbon, a Pro Ring, and a Pro Cape. So I'm going back and forth deciding whether I want to be practical or whether I want to be fashionably symmetrical. And ultimately, I decide to be symmetrical because that is my style of gaming. I don't have to optimize in order to beat the game and have fun while doing so. So I'm going to have Omaru and Cow looking good for the final battle. I'm also going to make a little shift in the weapons as far as who is holding what to make Miko a little more versatile in battle. Every turn, to me, it's the best idea to have Shao attack with Excalibur. So Miko is going to take one more weapon that has special group attack abilities, depending on the situation. I could also have had Miko keep the second heel helmet rather than the ribbon, but the ribbons are the best headpiece in the game, and I don't want to give that up, especially since nowadays ribbons are such a staple of the Final Fantasy series. And there it is. I just love it. The Black Wizard and the White Wizard are matching. And this is actually our final armor setup that we will take to our final boss fight. Now the other treasures on this floor are some money, a Pro Ring, which we already have as many as we want of, and then another katana, the best weapon for the ninja. Which makes me wonder, was the ninja ever supposed to be a dual-wielding character? And this katana was supposed to be his final weapon? This is the treasure chest that contains the Protect Ring. We're going to drop one of our Pro Rings in order to pick it up so that we don't leave a chest behind. This is pure vanity, but that's how I like to play a game. We go down this long hallway to get to the second katana, which we are going to pick up just so we don't leave a treasure chest behind. As you will see, we cannot use it, but now we have it. Now you'll notice that when we fought Lich, we stepped on a certain tile before we got to the stairs that led to this floor, and that's when the Lich fight triggered. In the Pixel Remaster, each fiend is encountered by interacting with an orb that is directly above the stairs. But here in the originals, you have to step on a certain piece of the floor that is just a few steps away from the stairs, and a portion of the floor that you have to walk on in order to get to the next set of stairs. Now in the second variation of Carrie, her abilities have upgraded. Rather than using Fire 2, Dark, and Hold, she uses Fire 3, Rub, and Stun. However, she has no elemental weakness. So in order to defeat her quickly, we will want to feature physical attacks yet again. Fast on our Knight and fast on our Ninja. Now, Fire 3 sounds like an intimidating spell, but because of our elemental armor resistance, it does not do that much damage to us. Those physical attacks, on the other hand, then Shao the Muscle wraps it up. We move down now into the water level of the Temple of Fiends past. Here we will encounter the water element, sea trolls, sea snakes, lobsters, great sharks, whiz sahags, big eyes, and nagas. Now interestingly, you can't run from the elementals that you encounter in these floors of earth, fire, and water. However, in the next floor, the wind floor, you can run from the air elementals, but you still cannot run from the worms. I feel like something should be found on these slabs with the way they're so prominently placed. This is actually my favorite designed room in the game. The earth floor of this final area would be my second favorite. The second battle with Kraken. His magic attacks are not intimidating at all. He uses Lit 2 rather than Lit 3, and he also uses Ink, which causes blind that we are resistant to. His physical attacks, however, are devastating. So we really hope that he doesn't hit our white mage, which is our only party member that can raise someone who falls in battle, and the only one that can take us out of this dungeon in one step in case we get in trouble. Because of his strong physical attack, I recommend Fog 2. Now when I played through this version on the original NES hardware, Kraken kept targeting Cow, so my party was almost always in trouble. I actually lost 2 times, maybe 3 times, because I didn't have enough mana slots for Omaru to get us out of the dungeon. Or I tried to walk back enough floors on my own so that I could use the warp spell, but was attacked by an enemy that just overwhelmed my party of 3. But on this playthrough with the NES Classic, we did not have such a bad roll in enemy targeting and attacks. Here on the second to last floor, we will fight air elements, worms which we can't run from, vampires and whiz vamps, rock golems, nightmares, evil mans, zombie dragons, and my old friends the sorcerers. What? We will also have a chance of encountering the rarest enemy in the game, the Iron Golem. He has a 1.6% chance of showing up in a fight on this floor, and unfortunately in this playthrough we do not encounter the Iron Golem. But he is a very tough enemy to take down with a very beefy physical attack. Now, I haven't been showing my main survival technique in this dungeon because it's kind of a drag to watch and go through. But I like to bring enemies down to just one easy enemy in a fight, and then have Cow and Shao use their healing items to bring the party's hit points back to where we want to be. That way we don't have to use our consumable items or mana points, and we don't have to exit the final dungeon and start all over in order to recharge. It's a technique that I like to use, but it is tedious. Now before we progress to the final floor, we're going to go down this long hallway and pick up the best weapon in the game. The Masamune is miles ahead of Excalibur, and it can be equipped by anyone, which is why I choose to give it to either Cow or Miko, so that the Excalibur, only usable by a knight, can stay in play. Now we have 2 mighty weapons to use, rather than one mighty weapon being used by our strongest warrior, and the other mighty weapon just collecting dust in his inventory. Now Miko is a serious force to be reckoned with. Another peculiarity of this floor is that your fight with Tiamat, the final of the 4 fiends, takes place in a hallway away from the stairs, not close to the stairs at all. There's 1 or 2 more steps over. But again, in the Pixel Remaster, she is in an orb directly over the stairs. The second encounter with Tiamat is not very different from our first encounter, except she is not weak to Bane or Break. Now we all resist poison, so Bane has no effect. And with Fast on Miko, we will get a chance to see Masamune in action. Now here with Omaru, I'm deciding for a little bit whether I'm going to use a level 3 ability to attack Tiamat to do some damage or not, since Tiamat resists the elements. And there it is, 500 hit points worth of damage with the Masamune. Miko is now a beast. Now we make our way to the final floor. There are no random encounters on the final floor. We head straight to the center room, and as we enter, we will see a familiar face. After, we double-check our hit points. Now in the Pixel Remaster, the final battle presents a huge difficulty spike, especially if you cheesed your way through the game by turning off random encounters and boosting the experience and the gold that you get. Although the final battle here in the NES is true to the theme and flavor of the rest of the game, in Pixel Remaster, the final boss is this stark contrast in difficulty, way more hit points, and some serious attacks. And here is our familiar face, the Knight Garland, from the beginning of our adventure. Watch as he explains his role in the story. And our final battle begins against Chaos. I'm just going to post Chaos's card straight from Gamer Corner Guide's website and emphasize the fact that if you don't take him out before he casts 3 of his attack spells, his 4th spell is going to be a Cure 4 on himself, which will restore him back to full health and reset the fight. And then his attacks just get nastier from there. So cast fast on your attackers, and if he casts slow on either one of them, cast fast again and hit him with everything you've got. Nuke and Fade are good non-elemental choices since he resists all 8 elements. But even if you run out of those, still use whatever you can to attack him with. Because once he casts fast on himself, he will start taking down whoever he attacks with 1 hit. Things can get out of control very quickly. Now we have armor that protects us from crack, so crack won't kill in this instance. And fortunately, Chaos hasn't done anything to really sabotage the party because of that crack attempt. So we're going to have everybody attack and give him everything we've got. And in a game where magic attacks are scoffed at as basically useless in this OG Final Fantasy, Cow gets the final hit on the final boss with the White Wizard's only all-enemy magic attack, Fade. And I had fun the whole time. The only unique enemy death animation. Now again, don't overthink this victory through time. Just enjoy it. The world goes back to the way it was before we even started the story. Now here's another plot twist. Apparently Garland was not the one that started this whole thing. Otherwise, how is he there to welcome us back? Even the game doesn't know the source of the trouble. I like that. Since we saved the world 2,000 years in the past, no one knows what we did. It is a victory and a memory that only the 4 warriors of light share with each other. I like that part too. This legend that everyone knows, but no one's really sure where the story came from. An unironic, clear moral statement. You don't see that in recent Final Fantasies.
I am beyond your petty morality.
The classic immersive ego boost. Crystals sound better than orbs. Well, this has been quite a journey for me. I had no idea that it would take this long to make a video series about the original Final Fantasy. I learned a lot about this game, and there was a lot more I could have added to this walkthrough. Let's do one more shift to the original NES hardware. Although this is not one of my favorite games on the NES, this is the foundation piece of one of my favorite video game series. So I'm happy I made this video. I enjoyed the comments and perspectives from my viewers as well. I hope that you enjoyed watching it, and thanks for listening to An Old Gamer.